Startup. Un momento.
You guys have fancy backgrounds. I know.
This is just my kitchen, dude. It's not fancy. I got some nice little decorative things up here.
Blow behind me.
I didn't do any of this though. This is why you get married, is so that they can put these little things up on shelves.
Yeah.
I think that we're live streaming. We are live streaming. It's great.
Yeah,
it always takes me a couple seconds to figure out if we're actually live.
Your left box says live on Facebook.
Yeah, it says live, and I've got it pulled up now, so we should be good to go. So okay. Awesome. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us here for Parents Helping Parents Live. It's Monday, first Monday of the month. Happy New Year. We have all successfully made it through 2020. I've heard that like 1,000 times, and I don't want to burst anybody's bubble, but I just feel like I need to say this to people who may be watching. Nothing magical happened at midnight on December 31st, right? Nothing changes unless you change, right? So if you're expecting all of a sudden 2021 to be this magical year where you are miraculously different, unless you're putting in some effort to make some interpersonal, physical, or life changes, then 2021 is going to be exactly the same as 2020, maybe minus a pandemic, right? Which is significant. Speaking of the pandemic, for the last couple of weeks, you've seen us in a beautiful studio around a table, all talking together. And now you're seeing us all talking together on Zoom. For people who are in the Oklahoma area, you know why we're doing this. The COVID pandemic is still very real and thriving here in Oklahoma City and the Oklahoma City metro area. And in lots of places around the country, we're not alone. And so tonight, at least, because of some that and some other reasons, we've decided to have this conversation via Zoom instead of live in the studio, just so that we can be conscientious of everybody's health and different things that we've got going on, especially after everybody's traveled and seen family for the holidays. We just want to do what's best and what's safest for our community members. So here we are. So this is the Parents Helping Parents live stream. Just briefly, I'd like people to do a couple of different things for me. If you're watching live on Facebook, go ahead and click that share button. That's really important. That automatically, exponentially changes how many people are going to get the information and catch this live stream. You never know who out of your Facebook friends list has family members who might be struggling with addiction or might be struggling, period. And so by sharing this, you could literally be saving somebody's life or saving a family or helping in some way. So that's really easy to do. Just click share, right? So we're Parents Helping Parents. We're an organization founded by parents, for the most part, run by parent volunteers with a mission of providing resources, education, and support to families who have an addicted son or daughter, any age, whether they're 12, hopefully not, or 52. We want to help that family walk through the journey with them. We want to connect them with resources, provide some education, and the parents just want to share their experiences, what they've been through and what they've learned along the way. So as an organization, Parents Helping Parents has no professional expertise or experience. What we do, bless you, what we do at Parents Helping Parents should never be a substitute for professional counseling, legal advice, medical services, any of that. All of those things are great. We want you to get those if they're appropriate for your need. Just don't confuse this for that. Now, luckily enough, during these live streams, we do have a professional on cue. Tonight it's Iona. We'll introduce her in a few minutes. So we do have some professional expertise in the room, but as an organization, Parents Helping Parents does not offer that. So thank you for joining us for the live stream. We've got some great things to talk about tonight. So why don't we, oh, hey, hi, Mason. He's already commented. See, we've already got one person watching. That a boy, Mason.
Hey, Mason, what's
up? Hit that share button, Mason.
You are.
Let's go ahead and introduce everybody, and then let's have some good old talk. So Miss Joan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and share with us anything you'd like to share about your history, about your story, about why you're here.
Okay. Hey, wow. I'm Joan, and it is an absolute pleasure for me to be here. So thanks for inviting me to this awesome event. So I'm a parent. You know, at the end of the day, that's it. That's my expertise. Um, we began our journey. We have two children. Only one of them has a really unhealthy relationship with chemicals. And we've been on the journey for a little over 16 years now. That's not to say that my son is not functioning, because he now is. So while he doesn't fit the bill of completely clean and sober, he's able to hold down a job. We have a wonderful relationship with him now. So it's been an interesting journey. It's been quite the education. And the good news is that education was really about me and learning about myself, so that whether my son chooses to put chemicals in his body or chooses a healthier lifestyle, he doesn't affect my health, my physical health, or my mental health. And that says a lot about the organization of Parents Helping Parents. I got here to Parents Helping Parents because my husband and I, we were scared, we were lost, didn't know what to do. Everything that we tried did not change the course of my son's behavior, which is frustrating as a parent, because you think you're in control, and lo and behold, we're not. But Parents Helping Parents taught me how to be okay with that, and also gave me the resources to get my son some help and to get ourselves some help. So that's, in a nutshell, my story.
Great. Joan, thanks for being here. You're one of my favorite people. I'm so happy that you're here doing this with us. So as our professional expert, no pressure, I will introduce Iona and let her tell us about herself and kind of get us going.
All right. Thanks, Joan. Nice to meet you. So my name is Iona Cunningham, and I am an LPC and an LADC, and that just means I'm a mental health and substance abuse therapist in the state of Oklahoma. And I've been in the field since 2008, and I began my work with adolescent boys in juvenile detention. I would do group therapy, and I loved it. Though that is my type. Is the adolescence is probably where my heart is. And I think my journey in recovery started 6 months before that, when I got into recovery myself, and I was 25. So I've been sober for 12 years. So I feel like in this conversation, I'll probably be talking from the professional, but also from my parents' point of view of what went with, what they went through. I started my addiction when I was 15. I did not come from a horrible household. I didn't come from I was not neglected.
Are your parents making you say that?
I'm sorry, what?
Are your parents making you say that?
No, but I did experience trauma. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today is trauma and addiction. And so I continued my career, and I admitted to, where I came from, and, adolescents are my heart. And so that's what I like to do. Especially the boys, actually. The girls just depends on how they like my personality, but I love the arts. I love music. So I love to connect with young people, but I see people of all ages for substance abuse and mental health. I had a career in nonprofit for 7 years, and then I moved to help open Arcadia Trails with Integris. And then I just started my private practice during the pandemic. Great timing.
Yeah, good move.
So yeah, and I actually started doing this whole career change before the pandemic. It just happened to be the same time.
Right.
And so literally, but I'm here, and I'm grateful to be 2021. It is another year but it actually feels like hope. I feel.
You know, it was really fun for people that might be watching this that aren't in Oklahoma City. I thought it was really neat to wake up to this big, beautiful, fresh snow of like 4 to 6 inches in Oklahoma City on New Year's Day, because it was just like, it felt like a cleansing. I'm like,
And no
all
one
things are
cared.
new. It is,
There
it
was
is
no like
happening.
pandemic, like there was just no like no one cared. Everything was closed anyways. I mean, it was
Yeah,
just
like just get up, build a snowman. Let's just do it.
yeah.
Hey, I really want to thank both of you ladies for being here, because I think this is a unique opportunity to have some really good discussions with people that might be watching, because between the family recovery that you've been able to find, Joan, and then between Iona, your professional experience, but also your experience in your own recovery, I think there's a lot of valuable things that people, you know, might learn tonight. So I want to remind people that we are live. If you've got questions for either of these ladies, if you hear something maybe that doesn't quite catch, or maybe that doesn't make sense, text those questions to the number that's in the video description. It's 413-384-9224. I'm going to be monitoring that. We'll answer those questions for you live. We don't want anybody to in the live stream going, I don't get what you were talking about, right? Make sure you ask those questions. That's what we're here for. So Iona, you said a couple of really good things. I'm going to kind of use that to kind of transition us into some really productive conversation. Is you said that a part of what led you perhaps into your own issues with substances was your trauma, but you also kind of mentioned just the trauma that people experience in general. Kind of break down for us from a professional like definition, like what is trauma? Why is this important? Why does it matter for addiction? Why does it matter for recovery?
Well, I think in some ways, you know, with family members, you're often neglected. I mean, that's a big part of the whole situation with addiction. And, you know, with trauma, it's, you know, it comes from the Greek word that means wound or hurt or some type of defeat. Like, so there's a severe situation or painful experience that happens, and your brain and body has no idea how to respond. So you have no ability to cope with it. You can't figure it out. And most often people talk about those natural disasters, but I think the conversation is coming more and more open to the small traumas, the things that we have that happen every day. And I think this pandemic has really brought that out, is that like it's really, I mean, yes, we have a big like trauma going on called the pandemic, but it's all those little things, those day by day things, or those little decisions you have to make. And then top it off with a parent dealing with a kid that has an addiction during a pandemic, that's probably tenfold even harder. So I think that's what we have to talk about, is the small traumas, the small everyday things that you guys have to deal with. And that's anything, losing a job, you know, people struggling with like making it work, keeping kids in school. How do we do this virtual thing? I mean, all of these little things are trauma, but also you have to also recognize you started with some type of trauma before, possibly, because we're all human. Every person on this earth has had some type of trauma. If you're breathing, you've had a trauma.
Well, and so Joan, just to kind of maybe even bring this a little bit more full circle, and Iona, you can agree or disagree with Joan's answer, and then we'll have a knife fight to the death. But Joan, wouldn't you even say that just being a parent of a young person who's experiencing a substance use disorder is creating trauma in your life and in your family's life that you then have to deal with in your own family recovery?
It really, for us, it was. I mean, it created, there was chaos in my household. And it was a type of chaos I was not, my husband and I, neither one were equipped to handle. We didn't have the skills, the resources, you know, and I say that, and we're both educated people, just not educated in the disease of addiction. I liken what my husband and I experienced, and I sure don't want to downplay anyone that suffers from PTSD, but that's exactly what, to me, based on the description of PTSD, that's what this felt like. You know, you got to the point where if I heard my son's car, my heart would race,
Mhm.
just in anticipation of whatever crap was about to come through the front door. And I was telling somebody today that because of my feeling of lack of control at home, I was employed outside of the house and had over 100 people that worked for me, reported to me. I became a tyrant trying to control that environment because I had zero control over my home environment. So yeah, there was, I mean, when she talks about trauma, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there was a point where my husband and I would have preferred to have worked 18 to 20 hours a day to just not have to come home to this. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
so glad.
enmeshment is a trauma.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a huge thing. And there comes a point where parental just guidance becomes enmeshment, and it just gets to be too much. So I hear that exhaustion, loss of trust, connection, all of it.
And
You
then
used a word
and,
that I
and
don't
then being
know.
alone.
Yeah.
Not having other people that could empathize with us, sympathize with us, and empathize with us. It was horribly isolating until my husband and I became totally honest with what was occurring in our household. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
That was kind of my main topic today, was that most often people say that vicarious trauma is considered to be trauma that is connected to first responders, doctors, nurses, anyone out there, basically, especially now. But parents are first responders to their children. So you often forget that we all who are parents, and tenfold when it's an addiction and a mental health problem, it just depends if it's co-occurring, to like really figure out and so that vicarious trauma, we also call it secondary trauma, all of those things that you're saying, exhaustion, loss of sleep, stress, loss of job. I mean, all of that stuff happens. So what do you do about it? You have to really consider mindfulness, taking self-care. Like you said, you have figured out how to take control back of your life. Yeah.
You earlier, Iona, used a word that I want to make sure people understand, because you said it really fast, and I was like, oh man, people need to catch that. And I'm glad that you came back to that idea that parents are first responders in the lives of their children.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was liking things on Facebook, I would have liked it when you said that,
I'll give you an
right?
example from my mom. Okay. From my example of my mom, secondary trauma would be like this. So when I was in my addiction, I would say, 15, I went to college in Chicago. I'm from Oklahoma City. I went to school in Chicago. So from 18 to 25, I was in Chicago, and I would call my parents in the middle of the night. I would get in wrecks from Chicago. And you can hear my helpless parents. And in high school, I was a great kid. I never got in trouble. I was a very studious kid. I was with the smart kids. We partied hard and we played hard. You know what I mean? We worked hard and we played hard. And so we knew how to do it. But that didn't help. And so from that, I get sober. 4 years later, I butt dial my mom at 2 a.m. It just happened. We got home and she had to hear my husband's voice to say, no, she's sober still. That's secondary trauma. 4 years after I got sober, she still is going to have that response. And I will never be able to take away that from my mom. So that's probably the hardest thing to deal with when you are a therapist, but also you're a mother yourself, and you also know your mother, to be able to never take that away. And that's probably the hardest thing from my side. I'm about to cry because it's really hard to swallow sometimes.
Well, and as a parent, at least for me, now I'm 16 years away from the trauma now. So for me, it's not the same thing. So now if there's only a couple of times that I get us a flashback to that trauma.
Yeah.
And that's usually a text message from my son that says, "Mom, can I talk to you?" And I'm thinking, no, you can't. I don't, just text me. I don't want to hear it.
I've heard that too many times.
Yeah. But, there's still, just like you said for your mom, there's that brief instance of thinking, oh, crud.
Yeah.
Here we go again. Now, I say that because I can recover from that pretty quickly. I immediately, when that goes through my head, that tape of, oh no, here we go again. What in the world does he want now? I can now say, wait, the last times he's asked, I need to talk to you, they've all been legit. They've not been drug related. They've not been alcohol induced phone calls. They've all been legit. Hey, Mom, how do I fill out a form for a passport? What's the website? I don't even know how to find it. So, just it's small things that over time, I've learned how to take a deep breath and say, I'll just deal with what needs to be dealt with now and quit trying to future trip as to what I think his issues are. So hopefully your mom is learning some self-care and some things to help.
I think also recognize that you did a little bit of grounding yourself in that moment. Like to take a little bit of self-care, what you said was, hey, I grounded myself in the facts. In the past so many years, he's called me about random things. It's not going back to that. So
Right.
See that even the little tiny things that you do in everyday life of thought stopping, just literally doing that is helpful. And so it starts there. You have to change it in some way.
Yeah.
The conversation in your head first.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
And I know this isn't my discussion to have. Derek's kind of doing it. But
it's absolutely.
I have a question to you, Iona.
Mm-hmm.
So your background sounds very similar to my son's. Comes from a very privileged home, well above middle class, 2 loving parents. We didn't beat on him too much. No, I'm kidding. And I recognize that trauma is all in the eye of the beholder and not for me to define or to recognize. But as a parent, when we hear somebody say that trauma is probably the basis for most folks seeking comfort and escape through chemicals. As a parent, we think, trauma? What did I do? And so I guess as a parent, I would want you, if you can, to help clarify the trauma may not have anything even to do with the family. It may have been something that occurred outside of the family. So, yeah.
Well, I guess I think when you consider trauma, and I explain it to kids and adults the same way in their own language, but saying like, if you think of trauma and it leaves a bad taste in your mouth, like it happened yesterday, like if you think about it and it leaves a bad taste in your mouth, you're like, that memory doesn't set well. Or if you think about it and it's like it happened yesterday, that is considered trauma. So anything that it's like a fight, flight, or freeze response, and to see that like our brain and body, this is like something that is like can be like really like earth shattering sometimes when people hear it. Our brain and body, when you think of trauma, has no idea if it's in the past or in the present. So just like you have that automatic reaction, your brain and body still has that adrenaline response, but you are not in the present. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like you're still doing that fight, flight, or freeze. And so that is why to be able to like learn that this is a community and this is a part of self-care is that one of those things is that you have to learn that you're not alone. Whatever side you're on, sober, parent, whatever, a sibling, like you have to also consider who are the siblings that were also shattered in this dream, because those are left out too. Those are the lost kids. So my story is I'm a lost kid. That's what happened to me. You know, like I am, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't matter if I was privileged or not. It just depends on like how my body process things. Like if someone else is in the same situation as me, I mean, they may have responded differently. It depends on if I have a mental health problem. It depends on my genetics. It depends on a lot of things. Um, but and also people don't remember that like your kids, whether they know it or not, they know what you've been through. They just don't have the words to say, hey, you're struggling with trauma or you're struggling with mental health and you got to figure that out. And most often when I deal with kids and teenagers, parents will come to me and be like, oh, it's the drinking, it's this. And like literally 95% of the time, they are totally off. It has nothing to do with why they're using. You know, it could
So,
be about the parents, but they're totally off about why.
so as a parent, if I have a child that's toddler, 2, 3, 5, 6, under 10,
Mhm.
how do I now as a parent stay in touch and help my child? I can't stop trauma. I as a parent, yeah, I'd be superwoman. Let me throw myself in front of you, and
Yes.
I'll stop all trauma. And I recognize I can't do that. But how do I help a child process their trauma so that they don't turn to burying those feelings and drowning them in chemicals?
Well, I mean, that is kind of what you do. You know, if it just depends on the matter of age. If you're a little kid, then you start a community real young. You know, whatever it is, karate, soccer, ballet, you start building that community real quick. You know, so that is one thing. The other thing is that like to help them, I think the biggest thing is people or families have to recognize like that children know that you go through things too, and so to admit to them if they're old enough to say, to just recognize, hey, mommy made a mistake, or you know what I mean, like, so to be able to like help them learn that we make mistakes too, and like how to recover from mistakes or how to recover from bad decisions. Like let them see
Yeah.
it, let them play out. Or
Yeah,
read books about it, you know?
one of
That
the
is
big
one of my passions.
mistakes.
I want to actually publish a book for kids who have parents that struggle with an addiction. There are no like cartoony books for young kids. That's like
Yeah.
one of my dreams to do. I just haven't gotten there yet.
I don't know, what you said is one of the biggest mistakes that I see families making in my practice is they feel like they have to shelter everyone else in the family from whatever it is they're experiencing. And one of the things that kids are really good at is they learn by observation. So when they see parents who aren't open with change and with struggles, they
Yeah.
learn not to be open with struggles and with change. And one of the healthiest things I think parents can do is in age appropriate ways share in family change and struggle together, right? Like don't try to hide mommy's anxiety or depression, but in an age appropriate way, talk about, hey, this is a hard part of my life that I'm working towards changing and fixing, right? And I think the challenge is finding age appropriate ways to do that. But when we completely shelter children from all of that, they just learn that to fly through life, not asking for help.
And help them also recognize like self-care and going to a counselor if that needs to be is just like going to the doctor. Like make it a normal day language. Like you got a scrape on your knee, well, we go to the doctor. You got a scrape on your heart, well, you go see, you know, a therapist.
Yeah.
It's the same. And I think in some ways like it's just the way you start the conversation, the way you build the platform. And if your kids are older and they have already gone, I think in some ways now it's about like really thinking about setting limits and boundaries, healthy things. Is it the curfew? Do you need to set a contract? Where are you? Is it too much? Do you need to just give it to the therapist? Do you need your own therapist? Like, do you need to go to yoga? Like stuff like that. If they're older, then that's where you have to learn how to detach with love. Like, hey, I've taught you everything I do. And there is no rule book on parenting. Everyone is going to cause some type of trauma to your kid, to my kid, I mean, that is just inevitable. Like, you tell me that your parent didn't cause some type of trauma, maybe not addiction, but there's something that has happened in everyone's life with their parent. I mean, so to really consider that there is a community, you're not alone. Self-compassion is also recognizing that we are all human. The humanness of this problem, the humanity of addiction is this, and just making it normal.
Joan, you said earlier that a part of the family trauma was living in the chaos. What was it like for you and your husband, or how did you guys begin to separate from that in order to find some healing and some resolution?
So just to make sure I understand your question, are you asking what was the catalyst that drove us to look outside ourselves for help rather than
or how did you even get to that point where you were like, or what was the catalyst, or what was a few of the kind of things that you guys learned, hey, we have to do this so that we can get out of the tornado of chaos?
So the analogy of putting a frog in water and then slowly turning up the heat and they finally boil to death and never hop out of the water, that's how we began. We were that frog in the water, and then the heat kept getting turned up, and we just began to readjust what we decided was normal. We just kept adjusting our normal to meet the chaos. And I'll because my background is psychology. Families are systems, and they have to be in balance. And so if something throws a family out of balance, then the rest of the family members try to juggle and jostle around to make sure that the balance gets restored. And so what my husband and I ended up doing in that kabuki dance for balance was crossing our own values and our own lines of saying we would never let X happen, and it would happen, and then we'd shrug and say, well, I don't know how to fix that, and all right, well, we'll draw a new line, we'll create a new line that says, okay, we're not crossing that one, and then something would occur and we'd cross that line. So part of the chaos in our household was created by my husband and I inability to understand what was happening. And like that frog, that water kept getting turned up to the point where we finally, and please know that it took us about 18 months of living in chaos to realize I can't love my son out of whatever's going on. So there were ways I could use his love and for us to manipulate him to get what I want short term, but I could never get what I wanted long term, which was stop this, stop. If I told my son, and I can still do it today, but I don't. But if I tell my son, hey, I need you, if I use those words, he would show back up at the house. If I said, hey, I want you to, forget that noise. No behavior was going to change that. But if I use the words I need, I could get him to show up. And that's actually how I used that and said, I need you to come home. The school is going to issue a warrant for your arrest for not attending. You have to go to school. And he feared going to jail. So at 15 and 16, that isn't what he wanted for his life. So he went to school one day, and the police called me and said, come get your son. Anyway, that was actually the turning point of moving forward. But by then, I had found Parents Helping Parents. I had found the phone number, but it took a while to try to find resources to help.
But I feel like all parents have to go through that journey. Sometimes I think with people with like in the helping profession, it's not our job to change your decision, but it's our job to walk with you and to say, if we encourage you to go like set the bound, we'll try to help you and do that and guide you. But at the same time, you have to make that decision yourself. You have to like draw the last straw. Just like we draw the last straw in recovery on the other side, it's almost like we're here for you and you'll know. Trust your gut. You'll know when that is that day and it'll happen.
And as a parent, I have to tell you that most of my parenting style is trusting my instincts.
Yeah.
In this instance, everything that I thought would alter his behavior was 180 out from really the way I should have been behaving as a parent. Now, I did not know that because the behavior I used with my daughter, who does not have a bad relationship with chemicals, it worked. And so it was frustrating to me as a parent to not recognize that my son needed to be parented differently than my daughter. And it really went against what my instincts were telling me I needed to do. So I as a parent, I lost all faith and trust in my own instincts because everything I had tried for 12 months didn't work. Now, in hindsight, I can say, well, yeah, because everything I was doing was not healthy. It was for me and not for him. And it wasn't until we got some professional help and some other folks help to walk the journey with us that we began to find other possibilities of parenting, not just the way I was parented or the way my husband was
really
parented.
Struggle with addiction and codependency. I always say when you start this journey, you have to do exactly opposite of what your mind and body wants to do.
Yeah.
Like do a whole complete 180. You don't want to go to a meeting, go to a meeting. You don't want to call your friend, call your friend. You don't want to go to sleep, you probably need to go to sleep. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like literally trying to take baby steps into a new way of life. And even with parents, because parents have to stop like calling, or parents have to stop staying up, or parents have to stop giving the money, or parents have to stop buying the cars or borrowing the cars or paying for the laundry or the cell phone, or it's all of it.
Yeah.
You just have to like really get there and just know it's like a soft landing. It doesn't have to be that scary.
Sure.
Because hopefully that's why we open this conversation, is that we're inviting people to say, hey, we're human. I'm just like you. You're just like me. We don't come from we're just normal, like middle class people living a life in a pandemic. That's it.
Well, and one of the fascinating things about all of this for me, whether it's the disease that the actual addict and alcoholic is experiencing, or it's the disease of codependency, or whatever it might be, is there is so much nuance in each and every person's direction and what created change for them. I could hear 100 different stories, and they're all going to be 100 different stories. Like there's not one certain thing this is what did it for me and this is what does it for everybody. There's so much individualism in that process of coming free from all that. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, Joan, go ahead. It looked like you were winding up.
What I was going to say, and as a parent, that is one of the most frustrating things for me as a parent. And even as I talk with other parents, it's when they ask me, well, how did you get through it? Well, I can tell you what worked for me and what I did, but I can't tell you that's going to work for you. It's almost like experimental cancer treatment. The trial is, some people it's helped, some people it's not. I'm working with a parent right now, and she's saying, well, what do I do? And the answer is, you got to do what's right for you. I can't answer those questions for
But
you.
most often the answer is you don't.
Yeah.
Like that's the simple answer. That's most often what we say as therapists is that, what do I do? That's exactly the problem. You don't. You
Yeah.
don't do anything. You stop giving the money.
Yeah.
You stop paying for the cell phone. You stop like handing out the cars.
Yeah,
Like,
well, and in a pandemic, it's even harder. I mean, several
right. And
parents
so
now
like
have their children
like,
living with them.
but that's another part of it is compassion fatigue. Everyone struggles with compassion fatigue right now. I mean, I think we're in a unique position that like parents are struggling with it, and you guys have been struggling with it for a long time. But now I feel like now you have a pandemic. We're all struggling with this trauma, and so now I think the connection to children and parent is very crucial. And I think in some ways, like this pandemic is either making or breaking a family. Like what I've heard recently is like everyone was like super scared to set those boundaries with family. I can't come to the thing. I can't come to this. I can't come to that. And then in the other side, on the other hindsight, is everyone's like, oh my God, I had a great Christmas. I did nothing. I didn't travel. I did not see family. I did not do anything. I sat in my pajamas. Like literally, I had no one that said they had a bad Christmas. So what does that say? We just need to keep it simple. We need to like self-care is like maybe you don't go to every holiday. Maybe we will set boundaries. Maybe this is what we're supposed to learn from the pandemic is like parents learning to set boundaries of I'm not dishing it out this year, guys. So good luck. Have fun with your own little families, or have fun with less. Be alive and have fun.
Yeah, and that's my counsel and advice to most parents that are saying, what do I need to do? And my first thing to them is work on yourself, because there's only, at the end of today, there's only one person you have control over. And it's not your spouse, and it's not your children, and it's not even your cat or dog. It is truly yourself. Mm-hmm. Everybody else has their own set of free will that they are off and running on. And if they choose to comply with you, cool. But they don't have to.
Yeah. And I think in my own personal life, people will say, what do I do? And I have to tell them, you know what? My child is 4, but don't think I'm going to be against trauma. Like I'm going to traumatize her. Like, so no, like I'm counseling you right now, but again, you're going to have to turn around 10 years from now and tell me what I just told you. You know what I mean? So I have to help people understand that like, this is just a part of humanness. This is just another layer of a disease. And trauma and addiction, if you treat it together and you come at it with first, the right care, whatever it is for you guys, the sense of community, the sense of hobbies, the sense of like right now, I mean, seriously, with kids, I've been having so much fun. I've learned how to play Uno on Zoom, catchphrase, Pictionary. Like I love kids. Okay.
You can play Uno on Zoom?
Oh yes. Oh my God. YouTube it. Yeah. I'm saying like
Crazy.
I love kids. So like
what a world.
Helps me live sometimes learning to be with kids. And so I think in some ways create more opportunities to like self-care while you can and learn that like you did the best you can with your children, provide them with opportunities to get help. But then this is why we're here, is to help you walk the journey. And it doesn't even have to be that. Like go garden, go do yoga, walk in nature, and be kind to yourself. That's the biggest thing, is that like a lot of my meditations and now for a lot of parents is self-compassion for whoever it is in the world. Bless them, change me. You know what I mean? Like Godspeed. I have done everything I can. And if there are resources that you guys need, I have a lot of like good, Body Keeps a Score. That's a really good book.
Yeah. Great one.
That's a great book. I think, all the not Louise Hay, but Melody Beattie. I don't know if you can talk about 12-step meetings here.
Oh, yeah.
You can? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So like Al-Anon, I mean, all of those CODA, Children of Adult Alcoholics. I mean, there's so many things out there. And then if your kid struggles with mental health, I mean, when I worked in a rehab, I mean, I did this, like I did like basically community outreach. So there's bipolar groups everywhere. There's like eating disorder groups everywhere. There's mental health. I mean, there's so many, and they're in the little counties, and I bet you they're all on Zoom.
Yeah.
I don't know that for sure, but there's so much support out there.
Yeah.
And so
one of the things that I want to like hammer on again that you said, Iona, that I just think is so important is this idea to be kind and compassionate to yourself. I see so many people that get stuck in this cycle of feeling like they've made a mistake, coming down on themselves, being self-deprecating, and then just reinforcing this cycle of negativity in their own hearts and minds. And it just keeps the problems on this roller coaster downhill spiral. And I love that you brought that up, that like, hey, most of the time as people, we do the best that we can, and we're just people. None of us are going to be perfect at any of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is the biggest problem. The biggest pitfall of compassion is everyone thinks of the need for perfection. And you, just like you said, Joan, you thought it worked with one kid, it's going to work for the next. Like, why didn't it work? Why didn't this problem work out the same way? Well, we're human. So
Yeah.
it's the same idea. My sibling is nothing like me. He's not an addict. He's not an alcoholic. He's nothing. He has his own issues. But I think in some ways, to be able to and it's not even just about your child. You have to remember, you have to step back and remember your own history. What do you need to process in your life first? Like, you got to lay down the child for a second, you know what I mean? Like, set those boundaries if you can. But then remember who you were. What did you go through in your life? And then that's where you start healing your relationship with your child. Is that when you start healing yourself and really get down to it and really set boundaries, or right now I've been doing puzzles and stuff, it just, that you don't even have to talk to anybody. Processing and just being who you are is helpful while you're going through stuff, and then when you need help, you do. And then when you get to when you're ready to make those decisions with your child, you'll know what to do. But it doesn't mean that you can't make those little steps today without making those hard and fast boundaries now. If you're not there, that doesn't mean you can't do something every single day to make yourself a little better. Wake up in the morning and read a meditation. Read it free on your phone. I try to be, it's all accessible. Literally, that's the beauty of the pandemic, is that we're so much more accessible now.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, Joan, if I said that you've got 60 seconds to give a family that might be struggling right now, just some encouragement, or to give them a lift, what would you tell them?
Well, the first thing I tell them is they absolutely are not alone. That while they may feel alone, they're not alone. They are not the only parent that has a child who has chosen to put chemicals in their bodies. And yeah, maybe they don't have friends that have children like that. Maybe their friends' kids went to Harvard and theirs is in jail, all I can tell them is they're not alone in this. So the resources, I would say, is first and foremost, you have got to care for yourself. Get some separation emotionally from your child and you. So Al-Anon saved my life. I would say go to Al-Anon. If Al-Anon's not your cup of tea, there's Families Anonymous. That's in the Edmond area. Nationwide, that's a little different, and I'd have to do some research on that. And the other thing is that the network of Parents Helping Parents, now that we're using Zoom and not meeting in person, oh my gosh, our ability to reach out to parents who don't live in the community where there's a chapter of Parents Helping Parents, this is just awesome. You can't be hugged, but by Jove, you can lay eyes on somebody else and create a relationship that way. And then I attend every other Wednesday in the Oklahoma City, and again, it's Zoom, is a parent support group, which is different than Parents Helping Parents, and it's different from Al-Anon. In that group, we actually can talk about our kid, talk about what we've got going on, and ask other parents, what do you suggest? What worked for you? Help me create a plan. And so I guess that's what I would say to parents. And I would say, you know what? As long as you have breath, there's hope. So don't give up. anyway, that's what I would say.
Excellent. Thank you. Iona, what would you say if I said, hey, you got 30 seconds, like encourage a family? What would you say?
My head.
What'd you say?
I said I knew that was coming, so I'm trying to decide in my head.
Yeah.
You know what? For parents who are struggling, beyond what Joan's saying, yes, of course, the resources, but I kind of want to have a different spin on it. I think as a therapist, if I saw a parent today, and I'm just going to imagine Joan's the parent and she's in it, I would say, Joan, you know what? You probably really need to consider what your ultimatums are. What are your top 3? And how close are you to that boundary with the person you love? And then you'll know what you need to do. Do you need to go get help? Like professional help, mental health help? Do you need medical help? Do you need physical help? Do you need to just go to yoga? Do you need to chat with your girlfriends? Do you need to go have game night? I don't know. But I think you have to really consider what your top 3, and I'll give you an example. So it could be like, I need to be able to make sure that I can be able to work 40 hours a week and my child not bother that. Okay, if that's your, or I need to be able to like practice my faith and not skip services because of blah, 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 blah. Or I need to not give more than $50 a month to my child, whatever that is. So to be able to like gauge where you're at. And then if you're like, oh, I don't know, that's probably when you need to ask for help. If you don't know, then here we are.
Yeah.
If you do know and you're like, oh, I get it, I know where I'm at, I'm not too close to that, then you know that you just need to continue to practice self-care. You have good boundaries, you're doing well with that. Like they're not even close to that boundary. And so that's what I would say, is that like really consider what is important to you. I would say consider yourself, your spouse, if you are connected to someone, your other children, what is really important. Living life. You only have one life. So consider that.
Yeah, excellent. I want to tell everybody a little bit more about Parents Helping Parents real quick. Parents Helping Parents offers parent support groups multiple times a month in multiple different locations. We currently have chapters in Norman, Oklahoma, Edmond, Oklahoma City, Tulsa. I think there's working on some expansions in some other places. But if you need more information about how to get in touch with Parents Helping Parents, where our chapters meet, when they meet, they're all meeting on Zoom right now. If you want to talk with a parent, we have got what we call a warm line that parents can call. And then, probably not going to get anybody at 4 a.m, right? But somebody will probably call you back around 7 or 8. But if you need help, if you feel like you need resources and how to get in touch with all of us, go to our website. That's the best place to get all that information, parentshelpingparents.info. Or you can kind of follow us on Facebook at Parents Helping Parents, Inc. for meeting updates and posts and all of those type things. So, like Iona said, there's plenty of help out there for everybody. Parents Helping Parents is one of those places that if we can't help you, we want to direct you into the right area that's going to meet your needs. So, Iona, for people who are in the Oklahoma City metro area who maybe want to get in touch with you, can you kind of tell them like where to do that, what the easiest place is to do that?
Yeah. So I have a practice in Edmond, Oklahoma City, but I do pretty much telehealth, and I can see anyone in the state of Oklahoma. So you can email me at Iona Cunningham LLC at gmail.com. So it's IONA, like it sounds, Iona Cunningham LLC at gmail.com. And if I can't help you, if I'm pretty currently booked, but if I can't help you, I have several great therapists that I have in mind, especially a lot of us therapists. There's a few people that have just opened practice, and I think they would be great connections. I think it's just about connecting. And so you can look me up. You can even ask Derek. You can ask anybody. But I'm under New Leaf Counseling too. You can look up New Leaf Counseling in Edmond, and that is where my location is. It's on 33rd between Santa Fe and Kelly. And if you want my cell phone, it's 405-204-9209. And that is how you can get a hold of me. It's easier to text me. Don't leave a message. You can just text and I will reach out when I can.
Yeah. And she tends to answer text messages that come in between the hours of midnight and 4 a.m. most regularly.
That is not
That's
even
a joke. That's a joke. Don't text
that
me
is
at
not
midnight, 4
even true. Sleep.
So, hey, ladies, you guys made my job super easy tonight. You were great. If I had to do this over Zoom every time, like you're both top notch. You're both lovely people with great hearts and wonderful souls. Thank you for your time and just for being here and what you do in the community.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Derek. And I look forward to seeing you guys, at a different meeting.
Yeah, for sure. Coffee sometime.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Take care, Joan.
Do what now?
I said take care, Joan. Take care.
Oh.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see everybody later. Thanks, everybody, for
guys.
joining us.
Have a good night.